Siobhan is from Stony Plain, presently working at Marmot, as young people sometimes do. And in between, she ended up spending 6 months in Mozambique. It's a little easier to pronounce for me than the other one, and White Horse, which is kind of interesting. Now, I think it's interesting, we didn't, the federal government, Canada World Youth, and she'll probably talk about that, has been around for 50 years supporting exchanges around the world, which is wonderful. One of the things I think is wonderful, we weren't involved in this, but the fact that somebody can go and make a contribution somewhere else, which is valuable by itself, but also bring that wisdom back here to our community. And I think that's extremely important, to do both of those things, to help in different places, the HIPPO project and so on, and to have people travel and come back and bring that wisdom for our youth, or maybe for ourselves and Larry.
Save the oceans.
Siobhan, welcome.
Yeah, I wanted to come talk about my trip and just say how much I appreciate the help of the Rotary Club. You guys made a very generous contribution, and yeah, thank you very much. So, yeah, like he said, it was a great program called Canada World Youth. It's been around for a really long time, and it's helped thousands of youth get involved in their communities and learn about a different culture, learn how to work as a team and bring that home with them, and share the experience with youth from different parts of the world. So we'll get started. The program has 2 phases. So the first phase was in Siobhan, Mozambique, which is on the southeast coast of Africa. The community is a small place, probably 50,000 people, but it was a really welcoming community, and just like the people were beautiful. Everyone you met was really interested in who you were and why you were there. It was kind of intimidating at first when you don't know the language, because a lot of people come up to you and start talking, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know what to say," because you don't understand. But by the end of the trip, I learned Portuguese, so that was one of the coolest experiences, is getting to know the language by the end of it. First, because I didn't speak Portuguese and my counterpart didn't speak English, and we were living together, so we had some interesting experiences with that, and I'll get to it later. So this is the group, 9 Canadians and 9 Mozambicans. Again, being part of a team was kind of dramatic and kind of life-changing, because you work with so many different kinds of people, and you have to work with them for the whole 6 months, and kind of there becomes cliques, and you get to know who's like this and who's like that. But it was a really amazing learning experience. So this is a typical week. We would have work placements. Each volunteer has a counterpart that they work with, and you work for non-for-profit organizations. And 1 day a week we have educational activity days, where we present to the group about an activity or an educational topic. It could be about environment or health or gender, and so those happen every week. As well as just community events and stuff like that. We get involved whenever we could. And then, of course, host families is usually 1 day a week. We spend most of the day with our host family and get to know the culture and our families. So these are just some more group shots. 2 of the children were living at home, and they were actually 30 and 28 years old, so most of her kids had grown up quite a bit. But she was just an amazing lady, and she always had so many stories to share, and it was a cool experience getting to know, at first not really understanding what she was saying, and then eventually you got to kind of know it a bit more and a bit more. And yeah, she was just a very, like, she reminded me of my own grandma, which was interesting because you would think someone in Mozambique and someone in Canada would have really different experiences, but they were actually quite similar. The way she talked about her kids and the way she talked about how men were and like her experience of raising a family, it was very similar, which was something that was really striking. This is our garden in the back of the house. We would go out and pick herbs and vegetables, and it's amazing how much time Mozambican women spend cooking. That's one of the hugest things I noticed was like a lot of our bonding time was over making a meal that might take 2 hours or something, whereas here a lot of the times you just go to the fridge or the freezer and throw something in the oven. It was really an experience cooking. Like, you make the meal for 2 hours and then you eat it for another hour. It's like, it takes up a lot of your day, whereas here it's quite quick. We just throw it in, eat it, and go do something else. So that was a really interesting cultural experience as well. This was my neighbor, Katusha, and she was kind of just always hanging around the house. She rented one of the rooms in the back, and we just became really good friends, and she was just an important part of my experience. This is my host sister, Grassa, cooking, and she's making a dish called bajias. So yeah, cooking's a little different. That was actually a pretty important part of my experience. I really enjoyed it. This is actually a different host family, and it was a Muslim family. Most of Mozambique is Christian. It's about 80% or so. But there are, significant Muslim populations as well. And we were invited to an Eid festival, which is, it celebrates the end of Ramadan in Islam. And we were invited, and we kind of thought it would be like a pretty conservative event. Like, we were told to dress conservatively and kind of just be prepared for anything and be respectful. And we rolled up, and then there's like Snoop Dogg blaring in the backyard, and there's beers on the tables, and like people are dancing, and we're like, oh, okay, not your expected Muslim celebration. And it turned out, to be quite like easygoing and just a relaxed party. So it was a pretty cool experience to know that a lot of people have judgments about Islam, and a lot of people have an idea of what it is, but if you're not a part of the community and you don't know, it might be something different than you expect. So yeah, that was a cool experience. This is my counterpart, Elma, and this is when our host family took us cross-country skiing. So that was a pretty, she actually picked it up really quick. It was cool. This is ice fishing in Whitehorse, just outside of town. We didn't catch anything, but it was a lot of fun. This is another host family, and it looks kind of scary what we're doing, but here is a picture of us. We're skinning squirrels because somebody else's host father worked for the Yukon government in the trapping, like he taught courses for trapping. And he came home and had a bunch of extra squirrels, so he taught some of us how to skin a squirrel. So that was pretty cool which is the Culture House. And I think I got one of the best placements because I got to meet so many interesting people coming through the house. Like, we had old reggae musicians, and we had like young dance groups, and like just all sorts of really interesting people. So I got to be a part of that. Yeah, this is my friend Jill. He worked for the municipality in Innibanny, and he did gardening. Some of the work placements were things like there was an HIV support group, there was an orphanage, again working for the town doing gardening, there was a recycling center, what else? Yeah, just a lot of great non-for-profit groups in the community. Yeah, I talked about educational days, so 2 people from the group will just present on a topic and show us around the community sometimes. One day we went skating for our EAD on physical education. Yeah, again, counterparts, that's Alma, now one of my best friends. Yeah, again, both communities were really cool, and as the program works, there's 9 Canadians, but we're from all different parts of Canada. So nobody was from Whitehorse, and it was a new community for us. And in Mozambique, none of the Mozambicans were from the community that we stayed in, so it was also a new part of the country for them as well. This dance group was actually, they practiced at my work placement all the time with Casa de Cultura, so I got to know a lot of the ladies, and I remember my first day of work, they had a festival they were preparing for, so I rolled up to work, and there was like a truck outside, and they were sitting in the back of the truck, and there was probably like 10 of them like crammed in the cab of the truck. And I talked to my manager, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just go to the practice with the ladies." So I like jumped in the back of the truck, and then they were like driving on our way to the show, and they're all singing in the back, and it was a really cool, like, it was kind of culture shock. So I was like, "Where am I?" And I don't understand what anyone's saying, but it was a cool way to just jump into it, and I got to know the ladies really well, and they taught me some dance moves. So this is just at the market. Had a few shots from the town. This is This is a statue of Samora Michel, who is he was the first president of Mozambique. Mozambique was colonized by Portugal for over 500 years. So he was he led the army in the revolution, and I believe he led the country for quite some time after. And he's a pretty important figure in their country's history. So you see him around a lot. This is the construction crew that was working. My house was on one end of the city, and I had to walk to the other end to get to work. So I passed this construction crew every day, and at first they would kind of hassle me, especially the men. I always didn't know what they were saying, and would just like blow kisses and that kind of thing. But eventually I got to know them really well, and would stop and have lunch with them and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool getting to know them. This is just some shots of the city, the markets. fishing is also a pretty big part of the economy there. It always surprised me how much women could like fit on their bodies, especially because like they would have like a kid strapped on their back, as you can see, and then they might have their groceries on their head, and then another kid in this arm, and I could never do that, so I was always pretty impressed by how much they could do. Oh, this is a cool shot because I find that in Mozambique, I found dancing to be a pretty big part of the culture. Like anyone, no matter what you look like or how old you are, like everyone can bust a move. Whereas here, if you go to a wedding, you can kind of see like people are shy to dance, or like some people are just not into it. But it seemed like there was just so much more like natural and a part of the culture. So that's something I really loved about it. It was pretty cool. This is some shots from whiteboards. Just at like local events. This is one of Rye. Has anyone heard of this sourdough shot? Sourdough cocktail from Mountain City? One of our supervisors actually knew this man, and his name is Captain Dick, and he's famous because he's the one who started the sourdough cocktail, which is, if you don't know, the story goes, these guys were in a cabin, and one of them got frostbite, and they chopped his toe off. And they're staying in the cabin, and eventually they're having some drinks, and they get this idea to throw the frozen toe in a drink and shoot the drink. And it became famous, and now he's actually paid to do this. People pay $5 to get a shot with a frostbitten toe, and then they take the shot. So we actually got the opportunity to meet the guy, and everybody in the group did the shot. It was pretty cool. But now, if you swallow the toe, there's like people who swallow the toe by accident, and now if you do it, it's like a $500 fine, because apparently it's really hard to find an extra toe. So if you ever make a shot, don't swallow the toe. You might have to, or if you ever get frostbite, sell your toe, because you might make some good cash. This is just some EADs where we were involved in the community, doing some gardening, going skating. Part of my work placement, we had a good classroom with a whiteboard, so we thought we would do English lessons a couple times a week. And that was really nice because I got to work on my Portuguese, and other people got to learn English. So yeah, that's something we did a couple times a week at my work placement. This is my favorite student, Lucio. I remember one day this was one of the ateliers where we would do art lessons with the kids. And he came in one day and he was like super friendly, and I was making some posters for the English lessons, and he really wanted to help, so he got involved, and yeah, we became good friends. This is one of the women from the dance crew, and she's, one day we got our group to come learn some moves from their crew, so that was a pretty cool experience. we hosted a Mozambican night where we served food and presented a dance and did some just kind of like education about where Mozambique was, because a lot of people didn't really know, and it was a great night. We had a silent auction as well, and we got to raise some money for the orphanage back in Inabani, which was really nice. We also did a compost project in Inabani, which it was already kind of going on, and we just kind of helped out and asked what we could do. And this is just us sitting in on one of the meetings of the compost project. Habitat for Humanity was my work placement in Whitehorse. So we got to work on a couple houses, and it was actually interesting. It was the first houses that were built on Aboriginal settlement land in the Yukon. So that was the first time Habitat had ever done that, which was a pretty cool experience as well. The mural project was another thing that, it wasn't my whole group, but a few of us from the group got involved. Just like after work, we would go and we worked on a mural that just kind of promoted composting. And it took us quite a few hours, but it was cool because I got to work with people from my work placement because a lot of artists got involved. And yeah, we had people from our group who just wanted to help out, and we ended up painting the mural. That's the finished product. And it says, Cuidar do meio ambiente, which is like, take care of a better environment. And yeah, it just has positive messages about recycling and environment. Tree planting was another project we got involved in. We only did it for a couple days, just because we didn't really have enough resources to do more than that, but that was a cool experience. So the orphanage was a couple people's work placement, and they would go a few times a week, but we could always go there after hours or whenever we had spare time, just hang out with kids. We did beach cleanup. I don't have any pictures apparently, and that was in collaboration with one of the recycling organizations in Inabani. So we just collect things from the beach, and they actually made crafts out of it and sold it to tourists. But it was they didn't make much money, and it was a pretty difficult business because not that many people buy crafts in Mozambique, I guess you could say, except for tourists. And yeah, so they struggled, but I think they had some government funding, which is good. Positivo is another organization we worked with, and we did a big festival at the beach just to promote the composting project. So we had music and food and bands. Another project we worked on was sexual health education, which basically was led by a community member, but we just kind of attended the meetings and hung out and kind of like participated in the activities. And they went to schools once a week, every Wednesday, and just talked about sexual health education. That was actually really interesting as well because it was different culturally, like what was, like there were certain myths or like things that people believed that we were like, oh my gosh, is that what you think about this? And so it was a good learning experience. And it was also really good that it was led by a community member because I feel like if a bunch of Canadians were to go and talk about sexual health just like you would in schools here, it would be received so differently. So it was a really good thing that we were just participating in and learning as well, not just teaching. So that was good. Yeah, I'll just talk about some of the lessons I learned. I think that I'll never want a fancy car or care about how much money I make because I've just even the last couple of years, not just this exchange, but I think I've learned that it's just nice to live simply. You don't need that much. Another thing that I noticed when we came back from the exchange and we're in Whitehorse was the way people talk about Africa is as if it's one country or one place, when it's really a diverse continent with a lot of countries. And even when I talk about my experience, I don't know everything about Africa. I know about one community in one province in one country. So I think people just need to be aware of how they talk about it, and just to know that it's a big place. There's rich places, there's poor places, there's thousands of languages, and yeah, I think people just need to be careful about the way they speak about Africa. Yeah, one of the biggest lessons I learned was that when you do community development, it's really important not to take the lead when you don't really know what's going on in the community, which I think happens a lot with community development. We met a guy in Mbani who was an Irish guy working for a German NGO, and he was trying to start like a recycling project in the community, and he didn't speak Portuguese, and the way he talked about the community was kind of condescending. Like when we first met him, he kind of talked about it like there was no one around. Like he would say, oh, it's like a dump here, people just throw their garbage on the ground. And he said, like, you know, we need to change this, and like, what if we could pick up all the garbage? And it's not that he was a bad guy, he had good intentions, but I think the way he went about his project was really just condescending, and he didn't really know what was going on. So he also wasn't successful. He was there for the whole time that we were there, and he probably had a couple meetings with the mayor and some people in town, but like, obviously he wasn't going to do a very good job if that's the way he approached his project. So I think that you just have to be aware, and you have to just work with people in the community and get to know them, and that's how you can help, and ask them how you can help as opposed to bringing your own ideas to the project. It's good to bring ideas, but it's good to hear what is needed or how you can help. Yeah, working with a group of 18 youth, you definitely learn how to listen, and you learn how to share your ideas respectfully and work as a team, and that's one of the biggest lessons I learned. And yeah, I feel confident that I can work in a group of people and be a good team member because of this program. It was just a great experience, and I got to make so many wonderful friends. So yeah, I think I learned about the exchange how fortunate I am to be from Canada, because we're such a huge country with so many places to see, and we have 2 languages, well, 2 official languages, and yeah, it's just amazing to be from Canada. Another thing is I made some friends who really showed me how to love people selflessly. I had a friend, his name is Gilberto, and I think he's like maybe going to be the next, I don't know, great motivational speaker, because he could always try, and if you're ever feeling down, he's one of those people who could really help you out of it, and he always knew what to say. And he was one of just the most selfless people I ever met. So this is one lesson that I learned from him, is to just try and love everyone you meet. And that's my exchange. I just wanted to say thank you again, and if anyone has some questions, let me know.
I don't have a question, it's just more a comment.
Yeah.
Based on the lessons learned that you've showed us, I would say the program's a success, because I think any change for like a speech program or program where we can go across countries, I think those are the best lessons to learn, so that's great.
Yeah. And one of the things about the program, a lot of people go spending all your time helping people, but most of the time in this program you spend learning, because it's about developing youth who want to be involved in their community. And if you go somewhere, like, you don't have that many skills to help, but you do have, like, if you have a good attitude, you can do a lot, and you can learn a lot. So that's what the program's about.
Great. Thank you. Coughlan?
I wonder what it is that you've chosen then to do in your life, and did this experience change what maybe you thought you wanted to do and brought you to a new place?
Yes, I would say, like, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do before, and I don't know exactly what I want to do now, but I would say that just my worldviews have changed about what I think is important, and like knowing that I'm going to choose a career not based on money, or like not caring about what my family or friends think about what I do, more just like what I think is important. Yeah.
Great. Well, Siobhan, thank you for coming out and speaking with us today on behalf of the club. Our club makes it a nation every year on behalf of our speakers, the portfolio, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, thank you for coming.